on from the session on academic writing, we're going to kind of focus a little bit more attention onto language and grammar. As I previously mentioned, some of this might be a little bit repetitive for some of you, but it's really important skills that some students are obviously in previous years need to improve on and work on, so it's important to refresh this and kind of repeat and remind you of these key things. You may think I'm kind of going back to real basics, but just want to kind of reiterate some of the key meanings of words and obviously how they're going to be applied within your work. So I mentioned this in the last session, the verb. So obviously this looks at an action or doing word. A noun, a person, place or something tangible. This can be broken down into a common noun, so woman, girls and home, or a proper noun, which is obviously the place, the Olympic Games in London, the Queen, or your name. A pronoun is used in place of a noun to avoid repetition. Personal pronouns, I, me, you. Possessive pronouns, my, mine, yours. And relative nouns, which, that and who. It's important that you get an understanding of all these basic verbs and basic terminology to make sure you're using the appropriate and correct terminology throughout your work. In addition to this, you've got adjectives. These give information about your nouns or pronouns. For example, Rachel is an honest person. An adverb adds meaning to words that tell you more about a verb. They're telling you how or when or where something happened. It's happening or will happen. For example, the horse swooped silently on its prey. Conjunctives. These are joining words, such as and, but, or that. Prepositions used before a noun or pronoun to indicate the place, so maybe below, behind, position, or the time after. So thinking about when you're writing, make sure you're kind of aware of the right terminology and the right words and using them in the right places. So I previously mentioned about sentences. A sentence is a self-contained unit of meaning and it always contains a verb. It starts with a capital letter and ends with a full stop, question mark or exclamation mark. Commas. Commas acts as pause in a spoken part of a sentence. So this is where maybe if you're reading a sentence and you read it out loud to yourself and you're struggling to take breath, this is where you need to implement a comma within that. Punctuation is a system of signal that gives you the reader to show how the grammar of the sentence is supposed to read. So we've got single or plural, so maybe looking at one thing or lots of things. The tense, so the tense of a verb in its setting in time. So the present, I shout. Past, I shouted. Future, I will shout. So make sure when you're writing, you're being consistent in using the same tense. Only shift sentences if you have very good reason to. As I mentioned in the previous session, you've got, first, second and third tenses, and a lot of your work will be in the third person. Spelling, this might seem like a really basics tool, but always make sure you read through your work to check your spelling. Use the dictionary setting, make sure it's set to English UK. I have lots of students submitting work with US spellings. Make sure your homophones are used in the right place, in the right context of the sentence. So in the previous session I've looked at these, so make sure you're using your to and to, and your there and theirs in the right context. So first of all, because it's my common bugbear, is making sure you're using the right spelling. Obviously as a UK institution we're expecting you to use UK spellings. For this first task, what I'd like you to do is use the worksheet which is available to download on Blackboard for this week's session and decide from each of the words which you think is the British spelling of the following words. So looking at colour, which is an obvious one, which of those is the correct spelling? So circle which one you think is the British and which one you think is the US. I'd like you to complete that little task just to kind of get your brain in tune to making sure that you're checking your spellings of keywords that are often spelt incorrectly or using the US spelling. So hopefully you will have spent a couple of minutes just circling the correct spellings. Here are the answers to the tasks. Look at each of the following pairs and it clearly tells you which is the US and which is the British spelling. Make sure you're using the correct dictionary, being UK English on your device. Okay, moving on, we're going to ask you to do another task. We're looking at commas. So what I'd like you to do, again, this can be downloaded on the worksheet for the sessions folder, is decide in the following sentences where you think the commas should go, where they should sit within those key sentences. Spend the next sort of 5-10 minutes looking at those sentences, get a little red pen or, download it as a Word document and place where you think the commas should go. So here we are, we have the answers to the commas test. What I'd like you to do is compare the results that you've got on your sheet to the actual correct places where the commas should sit. How well have you done? You know, if it's something that you haven't done particularly well at, maybe it's an area you need to concentrate on and spend a bit of time recapping this key skill in terms of grammar and punctuation. Okay, so we've looked at spelling and punctuation. Got a third task for you. It's a right or wrong task. Look at each of the following sentences. Decide which you think are correctly written and which contain errors of spelling or punctuation. Some might have both. So look at the following sentences. Please tick on your worksheet which is correct and which is incorrect. Spend the next few minutes completing this. So here's the answers to the right or wrong task. As you can see, the first one was correct. The second one is incorrect. The incorrect area was it didn't need to be an apostrophe in videos, as it refers to plural of the word, and where should have been were. The third one, brought, is incorrect. It should have been bought. So hopefully you picked up on that one. The next one was also incorrect. It should have been you are, and muddy footwear. The spelling of footwear is incorrect. Advice should have been spelt advice with a C, so not advise. The next one is sometime too independent for my own good. That is correct, so you didn't need to mark any incorrection on that one. I threw a party. Obviously that's a wrong spelling of threw. It should have been THREW. The next one is incorrect. Again, the spelling of there, it's in the wrong context. It should be there within THEIR. Draft, the correct spelling is DRAUGHT, not draft as in DRAFT. We didn't know. Okay, the apostrophe needed to be placed after the N. Didn't. And the correct use of the word no shouldn't, and it should be KNOW, not no. I switched off the computer, so clearly that should have been off with a double F. The correct spelling of accommodation, so accommodation is clearly spelled incorrectly, and a comma should be after the word noisy, and it should be bedsit, not bedset. And then the final one, knowledge, you can clearly see there is a D missing in that word, and the correct spelling is KNOWLEDGE. Hopefully you should have got most of those correct. They weren't too difficult. If you did get some wrong, just kind of revisit those and kind of refresh your memory and obviously learn from this.